music of Jimmy Lulu in the background with a track titled Point of View. You're listening to the third and final hour of Morning Talk with me, Naye Lupondwana, standing in for Sikelelwa Mgava Daily. Well, now we focus on our African perspective, and as per usual, we give you an opportunity to engage on this conversation always, yes. So if you'd love to join the conversation, find us on 0891 104 207, 0891 104 207, or you could find us on the SMS line 34701. Again, 34701. That is our SMS line. Or you could find me on Facebook, Naye Lupondwana Live. Naye Lupondwana Live. Well, things have been heating up in the South African internet industry lately, and according to JP Farinha, there have been two primary drivers of this growth in online activity: the increase in broadband capacity to South Africa, and also the prevalence of 3G services. But how is this growth going to benefit the majority of our citizens? And well, to give us some perspective and answers to this question, we do have the General Manager of Property24.com, who is JP Farinha. Good morning to you, and thank you for joining us.
Morning, Naye. Thank you very much for having me on your show.
Thank you, JP. Now, is this a good thing, first and foremost, that we have this much internet growth or internet usage growth in our country?
Naye, I think it's a fantastic thing for the country in general. When you look at developed markets, they've had internet access for many years. They've had levels of internet access that far exceed what we have in this country, and we're only just starting to catch up to the rest of the world at the moment. In fact, there are African countries that have far better internet access than what we have at the moment.
Now, when we say it's a good thing, from what perspective? From a connectivity perspective?
Yes, look, you start to become philosophical. It becomes from every perspective. I mean, if you just look at it from business, if you just take an immediate benefit to business, small businesses start becoming much more connected online, and you can start doing business with more efficiently with the rest of the world. If you take it from a household perspective, you get access to far more services than you would have. One small example would be Skype, for example, where you can make free phone calls to relatives and friends internationally, access to Facebook. Generally from a society perspective, you look at access to information, access to what's happening worldwide, news sites, current events, etc. So empowering people to learn and to understand what's going on in the world.
And so the question we've been asking and want broader answers to is, how then does this growth benefit the majority of our citizens?
Well, I think that first of all, education is a massive problem, I think, in our country. I think that we all strive to become better educated, and the internet is a fantastic vehicle for educating ourselves. So it really gives you access to everything that the rest of the world has in terms of information. So everything is at your fingertips. You can go onto Wikipedia, for example. You can find out about anything you'd like. I think that's the first thing. It empowers you via information access. The second thing is it empowers you to create business opportunities. So there are many South Africans that have created international internet businesses that have done extremely well. So it opens up a world of opportunity to anyone who's interested in going on and finding out about it. And thirdly, it benefits small business. So it must generate opportunities and jobs in the country. So all those things, I think, benefit the country directly.
And this generation of jobs is going to come in what form?
Well, that's impossible for me to say because it's as broad as there is business. It can come in any form. So, for example, if I started, a small service, IT service company, for example, in this country, I might find customers in another country. I might find customers in the UK, for example. So it's really as broad as your imagination. It opens up lots and lots of opportunities, for anyone. I mean, even if you just take a small business, take something like a building contractor, it allows them to operate their business more efficiently. It allows them to communicate with their customers electronically in a better way, use their time more efficiently. That has to translate into economic efficiencies and therefore better productivity and therefore more jobs.
Comparatively speaking, and I speak now of countries who are our peers in terms of GDP and so forth, how well and how good is our internet access growth?
So the growth is relatively good. If we look at the last year, for example, the DMMA is reporting that internet usage or unique browsers on the internet have almost doubled since last year. Now, there might be other elements in that growth. It might not have actually doubled. It's probably a little bit less than that. But we're starting to see substantial growth. We're up to probably about 6.5 million people that have access to the internet. The growth is mainly coming, however, through access at work. So through work networks connecting to the internet and allowing their employees access to the internet. But just an example, I mean, the other, last month, in fact, I was in Turkey. Now, Turkey is a country that has 74 million people living in it, and they have a GDP that's about, I think it's about $10,000 per capita. Now we've got, I think, about a $12,000 per capita GDP, so we have a slightly higher GDP than them. However, Turkey has 30 million unique users on the internet, 30 million people using the internet in Turkey. Now that's a substantial difference to us, where we have 50 million people and just over 10 million internet penetration. They've got more than almost 50% internet penetration. So when we compare ourselves to countries like that, I think that we're not doing well at all.
Now, when we speak of internet penetration, are we talking about homes or are we talking about internet cafes?
I'm just talking about people with access to the internet. So regardless of where they get access, whether it's at home or at work, it's people using the internet really. So when we just look at it from a usage perspective, we can see how many people are using the internet. That gives us an idea of where we are. If you look at connections, then it drops down a lot more, because we're far less connected at home than most countries in the world. We have relatively low home connections. In fact, in this country, you actually see internet usage increase during the week and drop down on weekends because of that. And in developed countries, the trend is reversed. You see internet usage increase on weekends and drop during the week.
All right. Is then the focus on people accessing internet, or people accessing internet in their homes whenever and however they so wish?
I think it's both. I think it's access to the internet in general. So if you're accessing the internet via a mobile phone, I think that empowers you. If you're lucky enough to have a computer and access at home, then fantastic. You're more empowered. But I think in general, when you look at Japan, you look at how advanced they are in terms of accessing internet via mobile phone. They're doing a lot of e-commerce, social networking, etc. on their mobile phones. We're in a position where we're probably starting to leapfrog in terms of mobile, because our fixed line connectivity has been so bad. We're seeing a lot more usage of the internet, for example, happening on the mobile phone. Services like Mixit, for example, are driving that. I think that obviously the experience changes whether you're on the mobile or on a PC, but we really should be trying to drive general access to internet regardless of whether it's on a PC or mobile.
Now, if we're speaking of mobile, it probably gives us a big spike internet access, isn't it?
So the numbers are a little bit difficult. I think in the past, the mobile operators have talked up quite big numbers with internet access on mobile. The reality is that when people get onto the internet, or when they use their mobiles to access the internet, they're doing very different things, and they're counted in different ways. So, whether you are downloading a ringtone or whether you're using Mixit,
exactly,
or whether you are browsing a website, those are very, very different things. And the mobile operators tend to count those things all as one thing. So I remember quite a while ago, Vodacom came out, I think, with a number of 10 million people or phones accessing the internet. But the question is, what are those 10 million doing? So when you drill down into that, you find that at the moment there's actually a much smaller subsection of that that's really using their mobile phones to engage with the internet properly. In other words, using something like Facebook or a news site or an e-commerce site. It's much smaller. But having said that, Facebook has got fantastic mobile numbers in this country. They see about 2 million users on the mobile accessing Facebook. So that's about 50% of South African Facebook users using their mobile phones to access Facebook. So that's a very good number. So although, we don't, personally, when I look at it, I look at it and I say, well, in my view, the number of people using the mobile phones to access the internet and engage with the internet is smaller than the desktop, than the 6.5 million. But I think that will grow and is growing extremely fast.
Now, this brings us back to the issue of the benefits of internet connectivity in our country. If we're going to be counting mobile usage, which you also mentioned could be the downloading of ringtones or people connecting through Mixit. Is it Mixit? Yes. Then that doesn't give much benefit in terms of businesses and employment, does it? It reduces the pool of people accessing internet for businesses and employment.
Well, those are just two examples of services, I think. When you look at local classifieds, for example, so take a junk mail or Kalahari, any of those companies that, or us, for example, Property 24, where we're putting houses online to benefit people looking for property or places to rent. That benefits people hugely. So if you just take an example of a classifieds, an open classifieds marketplace, that allows you to go and create your own business, for example, online, and that can be accessed via your mobile phone. So you can imagine if you're unemployed and you're looking for work, you don't have access. Maybe you don't want to spend money on transport and it's too expensive. You can get onto your mobile phone. You can get onto classified sites, job boards, etc., and you can look for opportunities, and you can access those opportunities from your phone. So I think that gives a huge advantage to people who have to, in this country, pay quite a lot of money for transport. It's much cheaper to just access that information online.
Now, let's talk about the number of people. You said that what is important is the number of people that are accessing the internet. Can you give us a number of how many access the internet?
On what we call the PC, the desktop internet, the DMMA's numbers are about 10.5 million monthly. That was the number. I'm just looking on their site for May.
Okay.
So they've just changed their measurement system. The previous measurement system actually showed about 14 million, and this one is a little bit more effective in cutting out the duplicates, and it's showing about 10 million. Now, we think that there's still duplication in there. The reason we say that is because people access the same person will access the internet through different devices. So I might access the internet on my phone and my PC, and I might have an iPad, for example, that might count me 3 times. So there is still some duplication in there. We estimate the number at about 6.5 million in terms of actual people. And in fact, Arthur Goldstuck has done some good research around the numbers, and he does a survey every year, and that's about the number that he comes to as well, where he looks at actual connections, at the number of people at work accessing the internet, etc. So we think about 6.5 million people on the desktop internet. And then on the mobile, depending on how you're accessing the mobile, we think there's probably another couple of million, probably 3-4 million. But those numbers are very difficult to figure out, and they can go upwards of the 6.5 million, depending on how you define it. So if you look at Mixit's numbers, I mean they're really big, and that would drive it way over the 6.5 or even the 10 million mark. But are those people accessing the internet, or are they just using Mixit to communicate with each other?
Now, I'm on Facebook right now, and on my laptop. My curiosity is how many people who are using Facebook adds to the number 10 million. You said, would Facebook be a benefit in terms of communication, or would just be an extramural activity?
So I think it's different for different people. If you take, let's take Facebook is probably a good example, but another social network which works pretty well is LinkedIn. Now, LinkedIn is used in business really for business connections. So Facebook is very social, and it's all about family and friends connecting and communicating with each other. So I think there's a big social benefit. People have different opinions about Facebook. My opinion is that it provides massive social benefit in allowing people to to connect more efficiently with each other and stay in touch with each other. I mean, particularly if you're living in different cities or different countries. But if you look at business benefit, well, then you've got something like LinkedIn, for example. It allows you to look for relevant people. To do job searches, for example, find out, if anyone's looking for your types of skills. It allows you to network in business much more effectively, keep connected with people in your industry, up to date with information in your industry, etc. So definitely benefits in those social networks, although different kinds of benefits in the different types.
You spoke of Wikipedia, you spoke of yourselves giving people access to property for rent or for sale, and many other ways of people accessing information on the internet. But does that not speak to only those who have internet access or knowledge, and also computer literacy to an extent? Will that not be a very limited amount of people who know the internet and who know the computer?
Yes, so I think that's the problem that we have. Is we obviously we're saying it would benefit the country to have a far greater audience of people who have access to the internet. I think that computer literacy is to me it's not really that big an issue, because if you look at developing countries worldwide, if you look at the mobile phone is actually a very good example of computer literacy. When people perceive that there's a benefit to be had, they pick it up very, very quickly. So, who's gone and taught people how to download Mixit, install it, set up a user account? No one. But yet, Mixit is sitting with over 20 million accounts.
But we're speaking about school children here, isn't it?
No, Mixit spans, in fact, let's not talk about Mixit, talk about Facebook as well as Mixit. It spans the age groups right from school children all the way up to adults and even older people. So usually the perception is that it's younger kids.
Especially here in South Africa.
Yes, but that's just the early adopters. The youngsters are always the early adopters with this kind of technology, and then it always moves itself up the age group. So it's everyone.
Now, doesn't that beg the question that even with the number of those who have Mixit, usually they access Mixit on their phones, do we know how many people have phones in our country at present?
We have close to 100% penetration of phones. So so almost everyone has a phone, because when we say 100%, it means that there are more. In fact, there are more phones in the country than there are people. But certain people have more than one phone, etc. So the mobile is a great way to get internet access to the rest of the country, because PC penetration is not that high in this country. So absolutely, mobile is the future in terms of access to the internet, I think, for lots of African countries.
Isn't that a curious point, though, that we speak of number of phones that with people, or the number of phones out there, but we're not talking about just phones now, are we? We're talking about phones that have internet access, isn't it?
Yes, so that number is a different number, and I don't have that stat offhand as to how many phones are internet enabled, but it's probably close to 40 or 50% of all phones that are out there, and it might even be higher than that.
And set aside those who are actually using the internet in their phones. Some have the phone that has the capability of the internet, but don't even access the internet via their telephones.
Yeah, so I think the issue there is really cost. And that's where the mobile operators come in, where if you look at the cost, and it's been one of the drivers of internet usage, is the cost of accessing the internet on mobile phones has come down substantially over the last few years. 3G access has improved, etc. And we think that those costs will continue to come down. In fact, 3G has been one of the biggest drivers of broadband access in our country, because Telkom has not been really enabling the country to a good enough degree of getting fixed line connectivity. So it's the mobile access that has been driving a lot of the broadband growth.
Now, let's talk about the access areas. Which areas do you find being most connected in our country?
It's closely aligned to the economic zone. So Gauteng by far is the most connected and has the most users using the internet. Second to that would be the Western Cape, and obviously around Cape Town, where most of the population is, and third, KwaZulu-Natal with Durban. So it actually follows population and economic activity quite closely.
Indeed. All right. In a short while, we're giving you an opportunity now to take with some questions. South Africa, if you have any questions for our guest JP Farinha, who is our guest for this conversation, is the GM of Property24.com, talking to us about the access to the internet. In fact, not just that, we're talking about the benefits of this growth of internet usage here in our country. And if you have any questions or comments for him, feel free to call us on 0891 104 207, 0891 104 207. You're listening to Morning Talk.
Talk on SAFM.
You're listening to the third and final hour of Morning Talk with me, Naye Lupondwana, in conversation with JP Farinha, GM of Property24.com, talking to us about the growth of internet connection and usage in our country, which is supposed to be a good thing. JP Farinha, thank you for staying with us. We have a question from PE from Sylvester. Sylvester, good morning.
Good morning. Hi there, JP.
Hi there, Vesta.
Good morning. I just want to phone and my question is Wi-Fi connectivity. Recently I came across an article and I found it very interesting. Seoul, Korea, the capital of obviously South Korea, has probably got around a population of 10 million, which, listening to you earlier, is about the total of our unique internet users in South Africa. And what I found fantastic is that Korea, or Seoul, they're going to offer free Wi-Fi to the entire population of the city, which is, it's just amazing. And I got talking with a group of friends and had a great debate because I suggested, why not, if not in our big city centres, free up Wi-Fi in our townships and offer the less privileged and people that do not have the funds necessarily to take out internet contracts, access to the internet via their mobile phones. And the debate was, these guys, people that are not as fortunate, are just struggling to keep clothes on their back and food in their stomach. And I said, nonsense. I said, there is a need for the internet, and if we had a free up Wi-Fi in the townships and so forth, the internet would be used, to the betterment of all South Africans. So that is my question to you today, JP. Would free Wi-Fi in all the townships around South Africa be a good thing?
I think that would be fantastic. I agree with you 100%. If you look at Korea, South Korea is one of the countries on the forefront of connectivity. They've built up a really fantastic internet culture and business and are really benefiting from it. I think that the only thing that I would say is that Wi-Fi is not necessarily the right technology to go when you're looking at broad coverage, because you need lots. Wi-Fi has actually got a short range reach, so you need lots of hotspots. Wi-Fi works particularly well in a city because you have shops next to each other and apartments next to each other that all have Wi-Fi routers, and you can create these hotspots in a city because it's very dense. But as you get outside of a city, you need something that is going to give you more broader coverage, and that's why WiMAX is actually one of the very good technologies that we're experimenting with in the country, that might be able to do exactly that, to provide coverage. And I think that the mobile operators are particularly well poised to be able to provide these services, because 3G is quite expensive to provide to a phone, and that's why the cost of it is quite expensive. But WiMAX is a heck of a lot cheaper. Obviously, the issue is that phones at the moment don't have WiMAX capabilities in them. But I think that the technologies will evolve until your mobile phone is basically getting your internet connectivity potentially through different wireless mechanisms than 3G, and I think at that stage the cost will come down. And I agree with you. I think that government should be stepping in and subsidizing or having programs where you do provide free access to underprivileged areas.
So it can be done. Absolutely, yes. So the capabilities, so with NASPERS and the government and great companies such as Google and Microsoft, it's all there it just has to be done now. So what is stopping everyone from doing it then?
Well, I think it's cost. So you mentioned Naspers. Naspers is our parent company, and if you look at, for example, the initiative that Naspers launched with MWeb, which was actually a fantastic initiative because it's costing MWeb money, but they opened up to they basically opened up their internet access to uncapped, which was the first in the country. So Naspers is trying to push that forward to say, hey, let's get internet access out there. In terms of getting coverage into underprivileged areas, it's obviously quite an expensive exercise, and Naspers is not necessarily well positioned there because it's really the mobile operators who can get that going because of the expense of creating your mobile networks. Now, the mobile operators already have national mobile networks that cover all those areas. Whether or not it's economically feasible or not is another question. But you might be able to, for example, get subsidization of certain areas. So the broader rural areas subsidized by the urban areas. I don't know, but there must be ways of doing it, and I think that the debate is worth having.
All right. Sylvester, thank you very much for calling in.
Thank you very much for that. Fantastic.
Appreciate
Pleasure,
it, Sylvester. All right. JP Farinha, we also thank you for coming through and talking to us. We're going to conclude our conversation right there.
My pleasure.
Right here. All right, and that's how we concluded this program. And so we're going to give you another installment of the book reading, The Empowered Native by Litepe Maisel.
SAFM presents another